Well, what's good? First.church, I got to acknowledge a couple things. I have a different pair of glasses on. I got them online for $12 because my last ones, they didn't have an anti-reflective coating, and I got up here and I was like, I can't see. Where am I, right? So these ones, hopefully they'll be a little better. But way to make it out to church today on a freezing cold day for joining us online. Hello. Also, good morning, Hebron and Jail. And welcome back to the final week of our message set. It's complicated. And I've really enjoyed talking about this message collection. We've talked about keeping the darts, and I hope you guys have, been keeping the darts. We talked about what forgiveness is not and getting out of the trap of unforgiveness. And then last week we had Pastor Bob Merritt coming all the way out here, and what a blessing, what an incredible message. This week, I want to talk about the other complicating factor in relationships. And I think that it's really a rising factor, becoming one of the bigger factors in relationship complications. And for years, if you remember, you'd send your kids to college, they'd come back married, everyone got along, and cousins would move into the same subdivision. Parents would move into the same subdivisions as their siblings, and they'd raise close cousin relationships. And today, that's a lot more rare. I read a great article in The Atlantic about the decline of close cousin friendships. And basically, it said there's a huge prevalence of complicated extended family relationships these days. And it's just gotten way more complicated than it used to be. And families have developed more and more unique and disparate cultures. And a culture is the shared beliefs, values, and unspoken rules that shape how people think, act, and relate to one another. We know what a culture is, right? But that's what it is. And the problem is cultural differences are now everywhere. My mom is an immigrant from Japan, and she came to America when she was 33 years old. My dad is a multi-generational Minnesotan, and story about my mom. Once upon a time, my mom and dad were at an all-inclusive resort in Jamaica, and my mom wanted a crushed ice delinku, right, which also means strawberry margarita that she saw people having. And she thought it looked good, and she asked for one without alcohol. Right? Because she, like me, is a total featherweight. One drink and she'll be singing bad karaoke, right? So she doesn't touch the devil's juice. And so she orders this drink, and when she got it, she double checked with the bartender. Hey, this has no alcohol in it. And he looks at her, he goes, yeah, man, it's a virgin. And she snapped back, what do you mean, am I a virgin? I am a married woman. I have 2 kids. How dare you? And she went and got my dad, and she wanted my dad to fight that bartender, and made a big scene and whatever. And it's a language barrier. It's a cultural difference, and it's amazing to think about what a big role it played in our immediate family. And the cultural differences were so profound. Japanese people, if you don't know this is kind of interesting. Japanese people, we don't talk like Americans do. In America, we play tennis conversationally. We just hit the ball back and forth, right? We hit the ball to one another. In Japan, conversationally, they don't do that. They take turns kind of standing on a stage, presenting. One person talks and the other person listens. Oh, wow, very interesting, right? Totally different conversational styles. In America, we confront differently, and clearly to solve problems, right? Directly. Here's the problem, here's what I want you to do. In Japan, they confront indirectly, nuanced, to save face and give honor. And I grew up watching different cultures create miscommunication just constantly. I would watch my family miscommunicate all the time. And one person would act in a way that they thought was totally clear, very appropriate. And another person would be deeply hurt and profoundly offended, and they wouldn't even know why. I married a white girl, and I thought our marriage is gonna be way easier because we were raised in the same country. I'm a pretty smart guy. I'm good at talking with people. My wife is very smart, and she's great at talking with people. And I figured, look, being married for us is gonna be a cinch. And I remember early in our marriage, my wife would say, hey, I'll be there at 5. And she'd show up at 5:15, and I just thought, Kristen, are you out of your mind? And that's how she communicated. Just recently, her family came to visit the other day for a week, and they didn't tell us when they were leaving. They were at our house and they didn't tell us. They just gave approximate days. We'll leave Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. And I just thought, are we animals? Are we just living by the sunrise and sunset? How is this? I lost my mind. And it's just cultural differences between families. They thought that was totally appropriate. Sometimes Early in our marriage, my wife would lash out at me. And she would say, John, you never do anything around the house. And I would say, babe, you never said anything. And she'd say, what do you mean I didn't say anything? I said, I'm tired and I don't know how I can get it all done. And I'd say, yeah, that stinks, you know? And that's different than I need you to help me with this, which I would gladly do, right? And here's what we eventually realized. We had radically different cultures in the homes that we were raised in. And things that I thought were completely acceptable and totally normal were utterly unacceptable to her. And when she thought she was being totally clear, wow, I've got so much to do. I don't know how I'm going to get it done. Shouting for help. I had no idea. And what it was a cultural difference. And I believe that cultural differences are where most complicated relationships begin. Now, hurt and unforgiveness are where they end. But complication begins with just cultural misunderstandings. I mean, think about this. Nobody wakes up and says, you know what? I want to be an overbearing mother-in-law. That's what I'd like to do. No daughter-in-law says, I really want to steal my husband away from his family so they never talk. No husband says, I really want to drive a wedge between my wife and her siblings. Nobody wakes up and says, you know, I really want to split a church. I want to split a community. I want to split up a school. But it happens, and it happens primarily because of cultural misunderstandings. And here's what you need to understand. Unique cultures today have expanded dramatically. It used to be that people from Japan were really different from people in America, but most people in America were honestly pretty similar. I mean, if you look at our lives in the 40s and 50s, we ate the same things, rich or poor, educated, uneducated. We ate the same things. Watched the same things, wore the same things, read the same things. Think about this. Average public library in America, 1947, had a total of 4,000 items in the library. 4,000 items really isn't that much. You think about it, you had a chance of reading all those items over a course of a couple decades. I mean, if you were persistent, reading a couple books a week, you could read everything in the whole library. Today, the average library system has 116,000 items on catalog. Plus, we now have the internet, streaming services, smartphones, social medias, YouTube. Social medias, what am I, 40? Okay. It used to be, there was a big difference in culture between Japan and America. I mean, my parents had to fight through a cross-cultural relationship. But now, it's not countries, it's families that have major cultural differences in America. In fact, now in America, they say that an individual can craft their own unique culture through their algorithm for themselves. And they form their own unique cultures. You can have a son who has a different culture than a daughter. They form their own beliefs, values, and unspoken behaviors and rules from the myriad of characters they interact with in their own algorithm. And we see it in America today. People think one thing's appropriate, another person in the same household thinks something else is radically inappropriate. And today, most individuals have created their own culture. So if you don't understand cultural differences, relationships get complicated. And you'll see this in your own house. But here's the good news. Jesus, more than any other person, understands this and teaches about it and gives us a specific commission that helps us master it so that we can use it for our good and for his glory. And Jesus is amazing. And whether you're Christian or not, the system that Jesus gives to us has proven to bless life and cause human flourishing. It can untangle complicated relationships, and it can help you level up in connecting with people. So if you want that, I want you to lean into this message. And here's what we're gonna do. We've already told a story, but we're gonna look at some Bible, and then I'm gonna make 4 points at the end of this message. But let's jump into the Bible. The Bible is full of cross-cultural stories. And it's really the only religious book that consistently teaches us to understand and connect rather than dominate and overpower. I mean, you think about the Quran and Islam, it says, hey, if there's different people, they're infidels and you can kill them and take their land. You can put extra taxes on them. You know, if a woman disagrees with you, if she doesn't listen, first shun her and then beat her and then lastly kill her, right? I mean, Islam's a very violent religion. You look at secular movements today, the secular far left today says, hey, if you disagree with us, you're an awful, awful person and you're terrible, right? The only reason the thought of valuing all people who are different exists as a matter of historical fact is because of Jesus, which is pretty cool. Now, I think it's been perverted by some groups today, but it is a Jesus value. And one of my favorite stories of a cross-cultural complication from the Bible is the story of Jacob and Esau. And if you don't know their story, they were twin brothers that were rivals from the womb. And you would think that twin brothers would get along great, right? But not these two guys, and it's a cultural difference. Rebecca, the mom, it says she became pregnant with twins. But the two children struggled with each other in her womb. So she went to the Lord about it. Why is this happening to me? She asked. And this is the story of many a pregnant woman, isn't it? You get pregnant, something's like, God, why? This is so hard, right? And the Lord told her, the sons in your womb will become two nations. From the very beginning, the two nations will be rivals. One nation will be stronger than the other, and your older will serve the younger son. So right away, two sons that will have a very complicated relationship. They should be brothers, but instead, they'll be rivals. And that's what will define the relationship with each other. And it's all because of, you're gonna see in just a minute, it's all because of a different culture that each brother has. They have unique individual cultures, even within their own family. Some of you are parenting kids and you got along with your siblings growing up. You see a lot of kids that get along with their siblings, but then your two kids, they just fight and fight and fight. Sometimes you have two kids with different cultures. It says, when the time came to give birth, Rebecca discovered that she did indeed have twins. Think about this. This side of 60 years ago, before ultrasounds were invented, it was just a surprise party at birth. It's like, wow, she's big. I wonder if she has twins. Oh, she does. Oh, it's a boy. There's no gender reveal parties. Must be nice. Anyway, it says, as the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. So two different cultures right here, right? One likes to go out, one likes to stay in. Isaac loved Esau and Isaac's the father, right? So the dad loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home. But Rebecca loved Jacob. And the heart of the complication is that there are two cultures in this family. And instead of working together, they're developing apart, okay? And here's the deal. Jacob cooks, he loves being at home. Esau hunts, he loves going out. And you'd think they'd have a great relationship, right? A lot of synergies, right? Because one can kill it, one can cook it. It's like, wow, that's awesome. But they don't. Why not? I would call it 1,000 little cross-cultural misunderstandings. I don't think anyone woke up and said, you know what? I really want to hate my brother and cause our descendants to generationally war with one another. I really want to screw up that inheritance and I want to beef over little things in china cabinets and whatever. No, but it was comments they said to each other when they were kids, when they were teens. Imagine Esau just spent 2 weeks tracking a lion in the wilderness, right? He's tracking it and cold, hot, scary. He kills it with a spear. And this guy's a man. And he lugs the thing home, carrying a big lion home, drops it at Jacob's feet. And Jacob says, why kill it if you can't cook it? Just drops that little thing because he doesn't value it. And Esau feels so disrespected. And Jacob doesn't get it because he has a culture that doesn't see the value in that. It's logic to him. He didn't mean to be mean. It's just genuinely what he thought. It was a misunderstanding of culture. And their relationship got complicated. Then one day, Jacob's in the kitchen, cooking away over a fire, gathering sticks, firewood, whatever. And Esau just says, hey, you know what? Cooking's for weak men. Real men hunt. Wasn't meaning to be mean, but Jacob is hurt. It's what he genuinely thought. Esau thought that. He wasn't trying to be mean. It's just a misunderstanding of culture. And it all added up. And think about this. They were twins, twin boys, born on the same day, minutes apart. They should have been best friends, but instead they were constantly wrestling in the womb, wrestling in life. No doubt they were told stories about it. No doubt Rebecca told Jacob she loved what he did and she wished that Esau, would do what Jacob did. She wished that, Esau was nice. Esau heard his dad say things like, boy, I wish Jacob would haul his load around here. Because in Isaac's father's mind, cooking wasn't as valuable as killing. And it's these two disparate cultures. I wonder today if some of you guys will recognize this in your own house. It's like, wow, we had two different cultures. And because of these cultural misunderstandings, they end up hating each other. Not because one is lazy. They both work hard in their own respective ways. But each value the work differently. And the resentment builds and builds over little things and over big things. And there ends up being some major machinations, and I'll spare you the details. The story is actually pretty rich. You can read it, but I'll put it this way. There's 1,000 little cross-cultural misunderstandings. And one is perfectly considerate in their own eyes, but in the brother's eyes, he's profoundly insulting. And they end up wearing each other down. And then Jacob does something that's bad, but not terrible. And his brother is already worn thin, and it ends up being a family blowout. It's the straw that breaks the family relationship. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had that situation where like there's just a little thing, it's a little spark, and all of a sudden, poof, huge explosion. And I mean, one person, they just feel so unseen and unheard and disrespected and unloved. And then on the other side, they're like they're just being nice. They think that they're being nice. And a little thing happens and a big blowout happens. You're like, man, and you're on this, you're like, why do they overreact like that? Well, it's because of 1,000 little things that you saw as inconsiderate. They didn't recognize these cross-cultural issues. Genesis 27:41, it says, from that time on, Esau hated Jacob because her father had given Jacob the blessing. You think about that. I mean, it's a deal, but it's not a big deal. And Esau began to scheme, I will soon be mourning my father's death, and then I will kill my brother Jacob. It's done. And their relationship got complicated. I wonder how many marriages, how many business partnerships, how many inheritances that should have been a good thing but ended up being a curse. How many things got screwed up because of these cross-cultural differences? What broke their relationship? Cross-cultural differences that led to behavioral choices that Jacob felt justified in, that Esau thought were evil. I mean, how many of us have experienced this in our own lives? I'm certain there are some siblings here, some spouses here that are family, and you should love each other. You used to love each other, but now you can't speak to one another and you hate each other. And both sides, I mean, you talk to them. I hear this all the time when I talk with people. Both sides say, oh yeah, I was totally kind. And according to the rules of your individual, unique culture, you were kind. But according to their culture, you can't see it. But according to their culture, you were inexcusable. And this is the genius of Jesus. This is why Jesus' kingdom flourishes. He knows how this happens. He spends a huge part of his ministry calling us to see these cultural differences and to build bridges. He shows us a way to end this crazy cycle, and I bet you want it. I mean, even if you're not a Christian, you want what Jesus teaches. He has changed the world with this teaching. This is why Christian nations and communities flourish. Instead of killing people, we bless people. So I want to fast forward from Jacob and Esau's life, 1,996 years, and I want to look at how Jesus lays out this really awesome plan to fix it. And I've got 4 steps that Jesus lays out to fix cross-cultural misunderstandings in your family and in mine. And these steps, I use them all the time to overcome little cultural differences with my wife, even this last week. And these steps help me handle the difference. And the first one is really a foundational step, okay? This first step, I should have made it step 0 and then had points 1, 2, and 3, but I didn't. But this is foundational. I just want you to know, as a Christian, it's your duty to do this. Not an option. Matthew 28:19, Jesus says, therefore go, not an option, it's a command, and make disciples of all the nations, okay? He says, this is your duty. You don't have an option. You must do this. Part of being a Christian says, I'm gonna build relationships with people who have different cultures than I do. It's a command of Jesus. That's part of what this is. And it means connecting through the differences. Jesus says this is not an option, it's a command, it's a duty. Most people, honestly, you meet a neighbor and you're friends for a little bit, right? They're not from a different culture, not from a different family, or from a different family, and you're friends for a little bit. A lot of people, you have bonfires with your neighbors, you hang out for a couple years, and all of a sudden you get hurt in 1,000 small ways, and it turns into a huge fight. And you just move on. And I see this all the time in our communities, right? You're friends for a couple years, maybe a decade, and then you just kind of drift away to other friends because all these little cross-cultural hurts add up. And you say, oh, they're mean, and you just cut them off. And Jesus says, look, everybody's different. And if you're gonna follow me, being different is not an excuse. All the nations means every kind of person, every different culture. A different culture is not an excuse to write someone off. Now, side note, I want to be clear here. This does not mean accepting every culture. Some cultures are inherently evil. They have values that are evil. What it means is connecting through cultural differences and pointing people to Jesus. It's our duty as Christians. okay? It's our duty, it's our duty. Second thought that I have comes from Paul when he says in Romans 12:15, be happy with those who are happy, weep with those who weep, live in harmony with each other. Don't be too proud to enjoy the company of ordinary people. And teenagers, I want you to see this last line. This is really important, okay? Teens, I want you to lean in. This really matters. You can memorize this. Don't think you know it all. Don't think you know it all. My wife says I should memorize that too. It's important, I get it. But I'm about to give you the phrase that pays, okay? This second point really is, this will change your life if you learn how to apply this to you, okay? This is really, really good thought. And once you understand what this means, you will be able to connect with people at a higher level. This is like a secret sauce that I learned in my life. I'm not a smart guy. I'm not the most genius guy in the world, but this little relational strategy has been so helpful. I want you to learn to see what they see. I want you to learn to see what they see. If Jacob could have just looked through Esau's eyes, wow, 2 weeks of tracking a lion, sweltering heat, hot desert, freezing cold at night, facing danger, he would have seen what Esau saw. He would have seen why Esau was so insulted. You have got to ask yourself, if you're upset and they're upset, you got to say, man, what are they seeing? I want to see what they're seeing so you can be happy or sad with them. Look. When we had babies, I had no idea. I was woefully unprepared for how hard it would be just to exist with newborns. It didn't help that our babies were uniquely difficult. In my last church, which was very similar in size to this church, the kids director told me, hey, pastor, can you tell us what service you're coming to? You just have the worst babies of all of our locations. You have the most difficult babies. And I just thought, man, it does seem hard. That is good. But anyway, I had no idea. So I would come home from work and I'd be exhausted. And my wife would act like she just had the hardest day. And in my mind, I was like, what are you so cranky about? You sat at home all day, in your pajamas no less, taking care of a 2-year-old and a newborn. Life is good, right? Well, then she had a Bible study one night. And I remember I had to take care of my 2-year-old and 4-week-old, okay? For 2 hours, that was it. And I mean, all of a sudden, I saw what she saw. I just had one little bottle of breast milk. Guys, you know what this is like. This is all you have. Okay, and I'm giving the bottle to the infant, Hermione, trying to put her to sleep, rocking her, and she's just starting to fall asleep, right? You can see her dozing off, and this is it. If she does not go to sleep by the time this bottle is empty, I'm dead in the water. I got nothing left, right? But I get her to fall asleep in my arms right as my oldest is about to swan dive off the counter. And I'm like, do I let her die or do I wake up the baby? I don't know. Well, obviously, I reach and I save my daughter from, diving off the counter. Now my baby's woken up and she's doing that newborn with her jaw going. She's wide awake. And I'm like, what am I going to do? This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do. Please, God, rescue me. I'm like speed dialing Kristen over and over, multi-calling, come home, please. And when I saw what she saw, I had so much more compassion and connection. And the next day I came home beat from work again. But I asked my wife how her day was, and I saw what she saw. And it was transformational. I was able to empathize. And a cross-cultural divide was bridged. And a relationship was so much better. How much of your frustration is rooted in not seeing what they see? Ladies, seeing what he's done. I mean, if you got a man who's working outside all day, on his feet, in the cold, I mean, seeing what he sees, when he comes home and he's just beat, man, seeing what she sees, bringing her best all day too in a different setting. When you see what they see, it just makes it so much easier to understand and have empathy for what they're talking about, okay? Number 3, okay? See what they see, really important. Number 3, for most of it, let it go. Let it go. So often, there's just a cultural preference that I have, that I fight for, that if I would just take a step back from, I'd realize, hey, I don't care. This is dumb. Why are we fighting about this? My wife, one of the things that she likes is scented foaming soap from Bath and Body Works in her bathrooms. I hate this stuff. It's so expensive, like dollars and dollars a bottle. We go for the holiday sale, right? And so you get it for $3.50 a bottle from Bath and Body Works. I still, $3.50? This is larceny. That's like almost a taco and a half from Taco Bell. This is ridiculous. We wash this down the sink, and I hate the way it smells. Bar soap is fine, right? Babe, it's like 30 cents a bar of soap. It lasts just as long. Why can't we just do bar soap? You know what? It's a preference that doesn't matter. We can afford scented soaps from Bath and Body Works. It's a matter of preference. And there's 1,000 things that I want to fight about that just don't matter. The grudges I hold on to because I didn't get my way. And it's like, John, Let it go. Just let it go. It doesn't matter. It's a cultural difference, and it doesn't matter. Consequently, my wife, I realized, for several months has been buying unscented refills for our Bath & Body Works bottles. She's just a saint. I don't know how she puts up with me. But how many of your complicated relationships are rooted in cross-cultural preferences that don't matter? That don't matter. I mean, you're fighting about this thing with an in-law, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Why are you fighting? Let it go. Okay? See what they see. If it doesn't matter, let it go. And then here's the fourth one, and this is good. Fight only for the things that truly do matter. And there's a lot of you who are passive, just like me. I can be a really passive guy for things that really do matter, but I just want the peace. And that's not okay. You can destroy a family this way. Paul says, yeah, I try to find common ground with everyone. Okay, I try to see what they see. I try to let go of the things that don't matter. Okay, and here's why. He says, I do everything I can to save some. I fight for the things that matter. I do everything to spread the good news and share in its blessings. I see what they see. I let go what doesn't matter so that I can fight for what matters most. He says, look, I'll give up my preference. I'll give up cultural things that don't matter so I can fight the battles that really do matter. And Jesus values diversity, and the devil's great at perverting that little truth. Diversity, I want to be clear. Diversity is worthless for diversity's sake. It's not an end in and of itself. Diversity for the gospel of Jesus is what matters. Jesus values understanding people and dying to ourselves with lots of things so that we can lead people to the things that matter most. And the truth is that a lot of diversity in culture is great, but there are some cultures and cultural things that are evil. And God says, love people enough to understand the differences. Let go, see what they see. Let go of the things that don't matter. So when the time comes, you have the chips to fight for the things that really matter the most. And listen, there's a lot of things that don't matter, but I will say there are some things today that really do matter. I mean, obviously we have the March for Life in Washington, D.C. this week. Sanctity of human life really matters. Punishing crime and evil matters. I'd say getting our families to church on the regular matters. Most importantly, fighting to make the gospel of Jesus known for those we love and the world. Those are the things that we fight for in our most complicated relationships. And I bet most of the time, cultural misunderstandings are at the core of our hurt, of our frustrated and estranged relationships. It's because of 1,000 cross-cultural misunderstandings, or maybe one big cross-cultural blowout. And I want you to ask yourself, right now, because it's our duty, what do they see that I don't see? I want to see what they see. I want you to understand them first. I want you to let go of things that don't matter, and then I want you to lovingly fight for the thing that matters most, which is a relationship with Jesus. I think about these things, and I think about Jacob and Esau. What if they understood God's heart for both of their cultures? What if Jacob would have just seen what his brother saw? What if he just let it go and fought for what mattered? Honestly, their relationship would have been saved. The world would have been radically different. And here's the thing. I love this story because it's my life. When I read the story of Jacob and Esau, I see my family in it, right? This is us at Tokyo Tower in Japan. My mother is an immigrant from Japan, I mentioned. She's been here. She came to America when she was 33. That means that she did not live half her life in America until she was 66 years old. And that's just mind-blowing to me, right? It's crazy to me. For a ton of my childhood, I watched my dad lovingly and patiently help my mother. He would explain things to her because the language and cultural barrier was real. And the difference between Japanese and English is really big, structurally, culturally, linguistically, really big. And I severely underestimated the cost that my mom incurred to be here. I didn't see what she saw, and I thought a lot as a kid. This is what I thought, and I'm embarrassed to admit this because it's shameful. But I thought that my dad was really smart and that my mom just needed extra help. And then one day on this particular trip that we were in Japan, I was in 6th grade, I watched my mom just walk with confidence. I mean, she knew everything and everyone. She could make people laugh. She navigated everywhere on the trains with a big swag in her walk, smile on her face. She was so capable, so mature. I saw her as basically like another child that needed taken care of. I realized, man, my mom, she had to explain and take care of my dad. It was all cross-cultural. I realized she had been heroically, humbly, faithfully, and sacrificially laying aside her culture for us every day of our lives. And for the first time, I saw what she saw. I felt what she felt. Oh my goodness. What a daily sacrifice. And were it not for her humble, mature, gentle sacrifices, our family would have become complicated and broken. Today, I wonder how many families need someone like my mom, who sees what others see, who lays down their life. And I just bet there's some families here with broken relationships, full of frustration. Why would they act that way? They should know better. Why would they do that? And if you're a follower of God, I want you to know it's your duty to fix this. I want you to ask God to let you see what they see. Understand them. Let go of the things that don't matter. And I really want you to make a list. In your most complicated relationship, make a list. Okay, I'm fighting for this, and it doesn't matter. Let it go. You could just say, Jesus, I give this to you. Stop fighting fights that are not eternal. And then I want you to think about the things that matter most and focus. When you get together, say, hey, I'm going to let go of all these things so I can fight for their soul, so I can fight for what matters most. If you follow Christ, we fight to heal relationships and bring eternity to things that are broken. And I just wonder, in your living rooms online, at Hebron, at Wheatfield, I wonder if there's some people here today, you've cut someone off, and God is just bringing this name to your mind. I've described this message, and it is a powerful reminder of your duty. And you realize, wow, I fought for things that didn't matter, and I gave up things that really mattered. And right now, I just wonder if you could write a name down in your notes and start praying all week. God, would you help me see what they see? God, would you open my eyes to what they see? God, would you help me let go of things that don't matter? And a lot of times what I do is I'll make a list of all the things I'm fighting for, scented soaps, whatever, that don't matter. And I'll say, Jesus, I give this to you. I give this to you. Forgive me for fighting for this. It doesn't matter. I'll even go to my wife sometimes and say, hey, will you forgive me for getting really passionate about something that it doesn't matter for us? Will you forgive me for that? And then I'll just say, hey, this is what I really want. And so often, we just find relationships repaired. As we close at all locations, I want to invite you to stand to your feet. And I would just like to pray right now, the people of our church. Lord God, I ask that your Spirit would fall powerfully on people's hearts. Would you put a name on our heart that we need to pursue and repair a broken relationship with? Would you use the people of our churches to repair brokenness? Would you, by your Spirit, remind us how much you love people, how it's our duty? Would you help us to see what they see, Lord? Help us to see and understand why they're hurt. Understand why they thought their actions were appropriate. Would you give us compassion and grace and empathy for them? Would you help us determine how to fight for what matters most? And would you heal broken relationships today? Lord God, we just thank you that you're such a loving, merciful, kind God who loves to see us live flourishing lives. Give us courage to walk the narrow path that you give to us. It's in Jesus' name we pray. All God's people said amen and amen.